Seller won't move out of house after close? What do I do? I closed on my first house yesterday Wednesday afternoon. The seller was still at the house that evening, so I thought he was just moving the rest of his things and would be out by the next day, but tonight Thursday I went over and found that he is still not out, and I already transferred all the utilities into my name and everything, so now he's in my house using my utilities and everything. What do I do? Update: I did not expect this to blow up. So here's the update. After some more back and forth between my agent, the seller's agent, and the seller has finally vacated, and I had all the locks immediately changed. Tell your real estate agent to handle it and escalate it to their broker company. You hired them and paid them $3 to navigate the process, and they knew or should have known that they shouldn't have closed if the seller wasn't out during the walkthrough. I assume you didn't have a final walkthrough to make sure the home is empty? Call your realtor, and if they don't answer, call their broker in charge and make sure you don't have a rent-back agreement. Also ask their help. Assuming you don't have a rent-back agreement, I think calling the police is the next move. What is he telling you? Is he saying he'll be out by Friday? And is he making good progress toward that goal? Or is he refusing to talk to you or telling you he doesn't plan to leave? I'm a realtor, feel like your agent should be handling this. First things first. Did you ask them why they are not out? Did they give you a time frame? If they say they need another day or two, maybe grant that to them, but let them know if they are not out by a certain daytime. You have the police there, the utilities will be shut off. You go back in time and refuse to close before the house is in exactly the state you agreed to, including all personal property out, tenants gone, etc. Why did seller even have a key post closing? You and or your agent fucked this. If they are still living there and you closed, you're a landlord now. Like seriously. If they don't voluntarily leave, you have to go to court and win an eviction so that you can have the police forcibly remove them. That will take months. Minimum. Your best bet is to pay them to leave. Cash for keys. Which is literally what closing should have been. You really messed up by closing with them in the house. If you do pay them to leave, don't pay them until after they leave. I would just start moving in. Your agent should have never allowed closing to take place if the sellers were still in the home. Unless you had a rent-back agreement. I'm realtor. And if the home isn't empty or there's an issue during final walkthrough, we do not close until it's resolved. Happened to me. I had to go through an eviction process. Cops could care less. Tell escrow not to disperse funds yet if they haven't already. You charge them rent. If they aren't out in a couple days' time to file eviction, I would make one of the agents pay for that. Why did you ask them what they were doing Wednesday? Go over with 4 male friends and hang out naked in your new house. Is most of their stuff out? If they signed the closing papers, the transaction is closed. Your agent isn't your agent anymore. You hired them to represent you on the sale of the house. And it's sold. You have a stranger occupying your property. Call the police. Generally you walk through before close to make sure their ass is out. Your agent should have been on this. Did you talk to him? What is he doing? Is he packing up his stuff or is he acting like he still lives there? Ask him when he plans to be out and tell him that you'd really like to start living in the house that you bought from him. If he doesn't leave, you're in a pretty bad spot, so do what you can to make sure he leaves. Call the police. Is he not squatting and trespassing? What do I do? Ask a bunch of strangers on Reddit rather than go to the police. A lawyer. Or your realtor. Duh. Your agent is an idiot. Usually if the seller cannot move out by the close date, they pay rent for a set number of days. What did he say when you showed up? Did you ask why he was still there? Call the licensing board on the other realtor if the person isn't out today and tell the broker in charge of the other realtor that they are paying for a suite at a good hotel for you until this is resolved, and get them to call in their credit card to pay for it. Tell them it can go easy or hard, their choice, but choose wisely. Why did you close if they were still living there? Speak with your agent escrow. Also, I'd unfortunately take a look at squatting rights in your state. Why didn't you do a walkthrough before closing to confirm the property was vacant and he had moved out? If he won't leave voluntarily, your only option is to evict him. What state are you in? I would have called the police. The person is trespassing. Maybe 1. Ask them when they plan to leave. 2. Turn off all utilities. 3. Notify the police. Did you not do a final walkthrough? Is there a lease back in your contract that you weren't made aware of? The listing agent should be involved. Per the contract, the seller should be gone. This falls on the listing agent. Can I move in? Y'all, let me remind you not to buy a place next door to where your seller lives or will live unless you're related to them. They'll be a thorn in your side, all up in your business more likely than not. Unless you build a solid, tall fence around the entire property immediately. How did you get the keys? Did your agent hand you the keys in the house after closing? If so, what did the seller in the house tell you on that day? I'd go in there and throw his shit out. But my way of dealing with problems is typically frowned upon, lol. Suddenly landlord. Do not communicate with the seller. Use your agent. The agent's brokerage. Demand they finish the process. Did you not do a walkthrough? You shouldn't have closed if he hadn't cleared out. Go rescue some pit bulls and let them loose in the house. Personally, I would start moving in and taking his shit out at the same time. It's your house now, not his. Roommate. Sometimes there is a clause in the closing contract allowing the seller XX days to move out. Even though it is technically your property now. Double check all your paperwork before you do anything drastic. This is exactly why you complete a walkthrough prior to closing. The house needs to be empty and locked before you close. Overall, this is really a lesson in don't sign something unless you're comfortable with it. Since this was your first time, I'm sure the realtors were pushing you forward despite some red flags. Once you did your walkthrough and saw the owner still there with their stuff, you should have not signed the closing documents until they were gone. Just remember, no one can force you to sign a document. Just need to stand your ground and tell the people pushing you to do it. Just remember this lesson and apply it in the future. Never close unless the place is empty. Did you not do a walkthrough before closing? Why would you even close if they weren't out? Seems like agent was asleep at the wheel, allowing things to proceed with seller not out. Why would you close with them still there? When we did an offer, we added a rent fee on the papers that they had to accept if the offer was accepted. If they stayed in the property after the date, they had to pay a rent. It was the price of my mortgage basically, but I think if I would do it again, I would put price higher to include taxes, condo fees and whatever. I am not a landlord at all, but when we bought our first condo, the sellers had problems with the closing of their house. I was happy I did this. Wouldn't everything that he did not take with him become yours as soon as everything was signed? Call police, they are trespassing. Hold up. Don't most real estate contracts stipulate anything on the property after closing belongs to the buyer? Certainly every one I have ever signed. Also make sure the seller isn't moving out with any appliances the contract says stay with the house.